What's going on today, Internet? Selfish with Retrospect here, and today we're going to talk about the 405V. This handset I absolutely love, and I absolutely hate. There's so many things about it. Let's talk about it. Come along for the ride. Here we have the 405V, and you're wondering, why am I making this video about 2 months after it came out? Well, it spent about 4 or 5 weeks in customs jail, and then I had a little thing going on. So I wasn't able to make any videos last week, as well as I lost all my video recording equipment and everything during a little mishap that happened during all of this. But here we are. We have the 405V. Everything in this video is a gestation of my random thoughts based off of my experience, and nobody has told me what to say, has seen the video before I put it out, and I probably haven't seen it prior to editing it. Now let's go over the I/O real quick. Here on the top, we do have the Type-C port for charging. We also have the micro HD. Oh, we don't have a micro HDMI port. We have room for a micro HDMI port on this side over here that does not exist. We'll go to the back here. We do have a fan here. This is not the speaker. This is a fan for cooling. And you can see when we looked at the top, there's also ventilation. That's an intake shaft for the fan for cooling. We do have extremely micro switches, like more micro than any switches we've ever had before. And we do have these crazy little ergonomic bumps that also have these spots they say are for your pinkies. But I will tell you, for someone like me anyways, these work well for your ring fingers when you're holding it. My pinkies are just, my hands are too big. So maybe my kids, they haven't played with this yet, but it might be for kids' pinkies. I guess we could probably try that out. Next here on the bottom, all we have is this 355 headphone jack hole. And then we have these two holes here, which are actually our speaker holes. They do look like micro SD card holes, which would be kind of confusing because a lot of Anbernic devices use 2 cards. This particular one only uses 1. And those are not the holes that you put the card in. In fact, those go here on the left-hand side. We do have a quick button that pulls up the Anbernic front end, and we do have a micro SD hole. And it looks like I've got a 128 card. I guess I probably already knew that. I've actually been playing with this device for about 4 days now. During my whole endeavor, this is the only device I grabbed. I did make a couple modifications, though we will talk about that later, but I did use their card. I haven't had a chance to load up a card for myself yet. On the right-hand side here, we do have our up and down volume keys. Those are also on micro switches, and we do have our power button. Nothing else over there. On the front here, we do have our D-pad, which is different than all the other Anbernic D-pads, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but I really do. It's pretty springy, and it sticks up a long ways compared to the other D-pads. We have a home and back button. It's just one button, home and back. And then we have our face buttons, which are also very springy, more so than your other Anbernic devices. They also do not sink in very far, and they feel pretty good. We do have our joysticks, which are clicky, and they are Hall effect sticks in this device. Also, we have our start and select buttons, and I don't think that I missed anything else. So let's get along with it. I'll go through the specs real quick. The RG405V comes with a Tiger 618 Octa-Core processor and a Mali-G52 GPU, which really does help with some of the graphical processing. It has 4 gigs of LPDDR4X Ram. It does have 128 gig eMMc with expansion through a microSD card. It has a 4-inch IPS Touchscreen Display, which is 640 by 480, so its resolution is 4:3. It does have those Hall joysticks, like I mentioned earlier. It has a 5500 milliamp battery, comes with Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 5.0, and it does run Android 12. We're going to turn this on real quick. There are some real advantages of running Android on a device like this. Though Linux is the preferred method for a lot of people, with Android, you are actually able to run all your Android games, which is kind of nice. Oh, that's loud. I've replaced the Anbernic launcher with Daijishu just because I think it is a better front end. But if you do hit this button, no matter what you change your front end to, it's always going to go back into the Anbernic launcher. And this is what the stock launcher looks like. It's clean. It works pretty well. As long as you put things in the right folders, it will find them and hook them up to your emulator. Daijishu will do the same thing once you get it set up. But you do have to go and map your emulators and things like that. We will go through a couple games here real quick. We'll start with N64, and we'll play a little F-Zero. This T618 chip is a chip that we've seen on a lot of devices over the last year, so as you can tell, it runs real well. We kind of already know this is going to work, so we're not going to go through a whole bunch of stuff, but this just kind of gives you a feel. This is one of those games that does have a hard time on some devices, so it actually works pretty well on here. You don't get any lag or any skip. Everything just seems to be pretty normal. Let's move along. Ultimately, where this excels is for you Sega fans. A lot of systems won't be able to play Sega Saturn, and this device actually can play Sega Saturn pretty well. I'm not sure if the games are at full speed because I never had a Sega Saturn, but the games aren't choppy, and they seem just fine to me. But that might just be because I've never played Saturn before. But all the Sega operating systems actually run real well on here. As you can see here, it looks pretty good. It's not choppy or anything like that. This is the only device I had for 3 or 4 days, and it works pretty good. And I did get a chance to play through Sega, and like I said, most of the systems look really good. I don't know what kind of speeds they're supposed to run at, but on here they look just fine. Okay, we're going to move along to the next one. Before I get too far, they did load this up with a whole bunch of premium emulators when they send it out. So from the factory, it comes with them. I pay for those emulators anyways, so I deleted those and put my own on because I think that's a little shady to be giving us emulators that are supposed to be paid, but I already have them, so I just deleted the ones they had. The other advantage of that is then you'll get updates. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the updates. And you'll see that with Dolphin on almost every single Anbernic device. It'll have a version of Dolphin that's not available for you to be able to do updates to. So when you try to update it in the Google Play Store, you'll continuously have this Dolphin update that needs to get done. You can get a free Dolphin and not have to worry about it. As you can tell, the speaker's pretty loud. It is in a weird spot though because it is coming out of the bottom, but I really like when Anbernic puts them here in the middle, but the bottom seems fine on this. It's not coming out the back or the top, so it is still coming at you. And sometimes bottom speakers don't sound that good, but this one actually sounds pretty good. I'm so bad at this game. I don't think I've ever done... well, for one, I've never played past this part of it, but I don't think I've ever done one of these where I don't just crash my way down the hill. Anyways, you can see that it works just fine. Moving right along. Here we have Ridge Racer on PS1. I do want to mention that I didn't have the BIOS files for any of the PlayStation systems, and I don't know if that is because I deleted the emulators to put my own emulators on, or... I mean, I think that it should have still had them in the folders, but I could be wrong because I just placed all the emulators back where they were. But either way, I'd rather run my own BIOS files for my systems anyways, but it's just kind of a curious thing for the PlayStation side. This is PS1 running 2 times resolution on DuckStation, and it's totally just fine. I don't know why I'm running into all the walls today, probably because it's like 1 in the morning, and I'm a little tired. Oh my gosh, these buttons are killing me. Here we've got God of War on PSP running 3 times the resolution. And as you can see, it's holding up just fine. There are some weird things with it, though. I think they got some shaders and things that they added to, or something, because the shaders don't cache quite the same as they normally do, I don't think. I've never actually made it this far in God of War, but since I was sitting around and didn't have anything to do there for a couple of days, I decided I was going to play some God of War. Oops. I am just slow today. Okay, one more time. And then I'll be done with this. This game killed my hands while I was laying around for a few days. And the reason being is playing like this is okay, where your hands have some support. But when you're trying to play a game like God of War, for instance, where you're constantly mashing on buttons, you really can't do it with the way that this thing is set up without being in pain. Now, you think typically you'd play it on a handset that's a horizontal handset, right? So you have that little extra cushion. Here you're pushing or pulling against yourself the entire time, and it's absolutely obnoxious, and it does not feel good to play. This is Call of Duty Big Red on PS2. Some parts of this work really well, and other parts do not work well. There are some issues, too, where it'll turn like a rainbow color as it's shader caching. This is another game where if you're shooting a lot and you're laying down, it actually does get kind of painful to hold on to this controller. I don't know if it's just because of how wide it is, but it's like, but your hands are in a weird, cramped position. I don't think I've shot anybody yet. This is not going good. It's hard to do this while you're trying to watch it through a monitor. So that game is playable at 1x. It's just a little bit annoying the way that it caches. Also, it is a little bit hard to see people on the screen. But then you play a game like this, which I just signed into just so I could get an idea of what this would play like. Well, I was going to show you black, but apparently it won't work. So I give up. It keeps crashing. Okay, so let's talk about this thing real quick. It's an awesome device. I don't think you're going to want to put it in your pocket because everything's going to get hooked on it, unless you're like me and you wear sweatpants every day. That is when you can put it in your pocket. That's what makes this a pocketable device. Other than that, I would just get a case for it and throw it in your backpack, honestly. And just the case only just so you don't get things bumped around or whatever. Next, let's talk about how uncomfortable this device is when you're laying down. So when I'm sitting like this, where my arms are spread a little bit further and you're sitting, totally fine. But I tend to lay on the couch or wherever when I'm watching TV, which I think this is kind of an at-home device. And when you put your arms closer together, which happens to be what you normally do, kind of like rest off your elbows, or you guys can't see me doing it, but that's what I'm doing. But rest off your elbows or doing whatever it is or however it is that you sit on the couch. Your hands start to cramp up. If you're playing something like God of War, or if you're playing a fighting game or a heavy shooter, your hands will start to hurt because they go in these weird angles. It's just not positioned correctly. I almost wonder if they would continue with this idea, because I think this was the right idea, but if they and it's hard to tell because I think they tried to do this, but if they cut this down even more, because the way that this is cut, if you can see the bottom is further apart than the top, it does force your hands out. So I think if they cut it just a little bit more, it might force your hands out even if you're trying to not have them out, because right now you're just wrestling with the device the whole time. The other thing that I've run into is these micro switches are so sensitive, and I'm sure you've seen this as I've been just sitting here. If you just rock your hands enough, you don't even, like, if your hands are positioned and you just rock them, the switches will hit. So if you're playing a game and you move it all, you're shooting or you're exiting or you're loading your last save, something is going on that's not what you're trying to do. And it doesn't matter which of the switches, it happens constantly with this device. I'm always hitting the wrong thing. And it's not any of the front buttons, these are all fine. Everything on the face is fine. It's just these micro switches, and they are just obnoxiously light. They needed to put a heavier switch in here, maybe a switch like off the X210, or even if they went back to the switches on the 353V and VS, those switches are a little bit heavier than this, and I know that it would be an advantage because you wouldn't be constantly hitting these things. It is terrible how often you hit those. It also would be nice if you could reprogram this button, and maybe there is a way to do it, and I just couldn't figure it out. If anybody knows, please leave me a comment down below, because I would love to reprogram that button right there. It's obnoxious that it goes to the Anbernic screen. Anbernic does make a decent launcher, but I still think Daijiju right now is the only way to go when it comes to launchers for devices like this. After setup, it just makes everything so fluent. I understand that this, if you want to plug and play, it's nice that Anbernic has a launcher for people that don't know what they're doing, but you could probably watch a 5-minute YouTube video on Daijiju and figure out how to do it yourself, and you would just be much happier with your experience. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think this is the device for you? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, I'll leave links to everything we talked about today down on my thingamabob. Go check them out. If there's anything here that you like, or don't like, or just want to check out for yourself, please feel free to go and check those things out. Again, those links will be down on my thingamabob. And please, if you enjoyed this, like and share this video, and also subscribe to the channel. I'm putting up videos all the time, except for last week. But that was a whole different thing. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. That way these videos will go into your feed as I upload them, and you won't have to go around and searching for them. Only 1% of the people that watch these videos subscribe, so you could be a 1%er. Also, if you want to, and you're bored and you haven't seen them already, there's a couple other videos over here that maybe you'll be interested in. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching.